Yes, indeed. Those are lifers. You know what a lifer is? A lifer is a species of bird that you've never seen before in your entire life. And those are great black-backed gulls. I guess actually they're probably only average black-backed gulls, but to me, they're great black-backed gulls. Fantastic. Oh, that's good. I'm here at Shag Harbour in Nova Scotia on the Atlantic coast of eastern Canada. I'm about to get onto that boat and head off to Bon Portage Island to find more species of birds. This is what bird watching is all about. And I'll let you in on this, I'm setting myself a personal quest to see 200 species of birds by the end of our first season in this television series, by the end of our first 13 shows. Do you think I can make it? I'm at 16 right now. So wish me luck. Man, those are big, beautiful gulls.
Well, not everyone agreed that the gulls were beautiful. On that short boat ride over to the island, I got myself into the maritime mood. Oh, it was wonderful. The salt spray, the sparkle of the sun over the waves, the fishing and the navigational gizmos. Fantastic. The day before, I flew to Halifax and then drove to Shag Harbour. And by the time I was on that boat, I realized I was deep in the heart of Nova Scotia.
So this is Anthony Smith, the captain of our boat here. Folks around here call him Spin. And he was just telling me the most amazing story about a bird watcher who came to visit the island. What was he after? He was after an egret or something?
Egret, yeah. It's very rare around here. And called me up one night about 11 o'clock. And he, anyway, getting on the island, I said, yeah, when you want to go? And he said, I'll be flying in the morning. And you can take me over. I said, well, I can't. I ain't rigged up for it. And I got him in touch with Richie. And Richie brought him over and said he took him on the island. And he went on the island and he put his scope up. He see the bird. After he see the bird, he said, I'm ready to go home. So a matter of 15 minutes.
He flew in from the west.
He flew in
15
from the
minutes,
west,
checked it off, and took off.
And took off. Went back home after he sees bird.
Oh boy, I hope we see that bird. I'd never do that myself, at least not if I had to pay for it. This is a great place for great birds. The great black-backed gull was a lifer for me. Now I'm looking at a great cormorant drying its wings. That's another lifer. And as if that wasn't good enough, while I was looking at the cormorant, I don't know if you saw it, a little white speck in the back, that was a northern gannet flying in over the waves looking for fish. That's another lifer for me. Fantastic. Great indeed. A super rare bird like a little egret will bring people to Bon Portage Island, but the main claim to fame that this island has in the bird world is the fact that there are some 50,000 nesting pairs of Leach's storm petrel living here. Now, me, I looked in my field guides. I figured you'd just come here, gaze out over this vast expanse of water, and see the storm petrels bobbing over the waves. How naive. That's not the way it works at all. It turns out if you want to see these birds, you have to go into the forest at night, after dark, long after dark. I got a tour of the petrel nesting ground from Peter Smith, an ornithologist at Acadia University and an expert on the biology of the Leach's storm petrel. Isn't this amazing? The birds nest in burrows in the ground in the forest. So Peter, is this, what can you tell me about this bird?
Oh, this is a fascinating
beautiful
bird, yes. It's a Leach's storm petrel.
It's what, about the size of a robin? And
Yes.
what a tremendous wingspan.
Yes, and this wingspan is well adapted for life at sea. It's a long wing and pointed, and it can slope soar off the waves. And it's a very effortless type of flight, you know. And they're out to sea,
Fantastic.
you know, until they come back to land again in April, May here.
And the webbed feet.
The webbed feet, yes. They patter along the surface, picking up zooplankton. You know, these are small animals that they feed on the surface of the sea.
What a handsome bird. Oh, and tell me about the salt gland, the tube on the bill.
Yeah.
What?
Yes, all truly pelagic or seagoing birds have this, and it's a gland which concentrates salt from the diet and extrudes it, expels it, you know. And you can see the tube nose here, perhaps.
Oh yeah, sure.
It's just really
beautiful.
remarkable, isn't
Just
it?
a single tube on the top of the bill.
Yeah.
So of course they have no access to fresh water.
No.
So they have to make do.
Yes, they have to make do, and they have this remarkable gland here, so they can live at sea all this time. Oh,
this is a truly nifty bird.
yeah.
Really excellent bird.
Look, I'd like you to smell this bird.
Oh, I'd
yes,
be happy to.
yes. Just please smell it.
It's a bit musty, isn't it?
It's a bit musty, and
It's not unpleasant.
no.
It's not a bad smelling bird.
It's a very oily smell, and that reflects the diet, a very rich zooplankton diet, you know. And on a foggy night here, as you walk through the woods during the summer months, you can smell this. It just
is that right?
pervades the entire
kidding.
woodland. Yes.
And you've got some, what, 50,000 pairs? Is that right?
Yes. On this small island, at the southern end, we have at least 50,000 pairs
So
breeding petrels here.
fantastic. So that's what, 100,000 adults and another 50,000 chicks.
Chicks. That's right. And it's rather neat, you know, that they return to the same site year in and year out, and to the same mate.
Oh, that's what we have.
Yeah.
You're saying that these things can find not only the island, but this particular burrow.
That's right, yes.
At night in the fog.
That's right, yes. All during the summer. Not only do they have to find the island, and they're coming perhaps 70, 100 kilometers from offshore, then they have to find their particular burrow site. And this they do unfailingly.
I don't even know if I can find my way back to camp.
Can't. You're quite correct.
Well, you know, us bird watchers, we rarely get to touch birds, let alone smell them. But to tell you the truth, the Leeches storm petrels were not the only odoriferous aspect of Bon Portage Island.
Oh, I'm having a whale of a time. You know, one of the reasons that Bon Portage Island is so terribly good for birds has to do with all of this seaweed. The rocks here apparently is one of the most productive areas for seaweed in all of Nova Scotia, and when the seaweed gets washed up on the rocks and starts decomposing, it's called wrack. The wrack attracts flies, as you can see, zillions of flies, and the flies and the wrack and all of this stuff provides a tremendous food source for birds. It's also very treacherous with all these boulders and all this decaying seaweed. You want to be careful, you don't want to rack your brains. A few American pipits feeding in the wrack. Really hard to see because they're so brownish and featureless. Usually you hear them first. It's a very high, thin sort of a pipit, pipit, pipit that they say when they're in flight. The flight is a bobbing, sort of a finch-like flight, and then you can get a good look at them on the ground. They used to be called water pipits, but the name was changed. American pipit now. This old silo is just about all that remains of the original Richardson place here on the island. Evelyn and Morrill Richardson lived here with their family for about 30 years. They were also the lighthouse keepers, And after they left in about 1964, they donated the property to Acadia University to serve as a field station for research in biology and for people like me to visit. A wonderful gesture, and of course the field station has been named in their honor. Evelyn Richardson in particular was quite a naturalist herself, and she wrote a number of beautifully crafted books about this area, about the island, about life here, both the human and natural history. Very much worth reading if you want to get a feel for this place before you come here, although you will have to look for them in libraries and second-hand stores because they're no longer in print, unfortunately. Ooh, man. That's got to be the worst look I've ever had at a peregrine falcon. But it's species number 32, and that makes me happy. Still a beautiful bird, no matter how far away it might be. It's a speck. I think it's over Quebec right now. You know, binoculars work an awful lot better when they're clean. I can't tell you how many birdwatchers I've met who spend a fortune on binoculars and then they just let them get covered with dirt and grease and grime. It's a very easy process to clean them. Let me show you how. It's a two-step thing. First of all, I take a little blower brush like this, you buy them in camera stores, and just blow the dust off that way so you're not grinding any little pieces of sand or whatever into the lens. And then I take a lens cloth. This is one of the microfiber lens cloths that you can use again and again. Fog the lens and wipe it very gently with the lens cloth. There, perfect. Fold the lens cloth up, put it away, and you'll get the very best possible image through your binoculars.
Keeping a sharp eye out for detail is important to the birds, too, and all over Bon Portage Island there are mist nets. Cleverly constructed nets that the birds can't see. They're real suckers for these things. In fact, some of them are sapsuckers, yellow-bellied sapsuckers, a type of woodpecker. And you know what they say? A bird in the hand is worth two in the bush. And it's worth even more if you put it in a bag where it can't peck at your fingers. There's a very active bird banding program going on here on Bon Portage Island, and Andrew Davis here is a recently graduated ornithology student. He's been doing a lot of banding on the island. Andrew, tell me what's the banding process like? I mean, a lot of bird enthusiasts have never taken part in bird banding. How do you do it?
Basically, we have our mist nets, which is the key to the whole process. And the birds, basically, they can't really see the net, and they hit the net, fall into the pocket of the net, and they stay there until we come around and get them. And then we untangle them from the net, take them back to our banding laboratory here, and put a numbered band on them, and then that bird is banded, and we can let it go. And the numbered band is what we use to identify the bird in case somebody finds it later on.
Right. And what can we learn from banding? What sort of information do bands bring back?
One of the main reasons for banding birds is to find out information on things like migration. Migration has always been a big mystery to scientists, and there's been lots of research done. There's loads of data that's been collected on migration, but it's still not clearly known, like what brings it about. And by putting a band on a bird at Bon Portage here, and say 2 years down the road, somebody finds the same bird, they'll report the band number, and then we know that bird has gone from here to there in this time frame, and we know what the age of the bird was when we banded it.
Yes. Yeah.
And it just gives us information on the distance it's traveled and its migration route, perhaps. So there's many things you can learn.
So you're basically one of many thousands of banding
the United
operations.
The United States and the Canadian governments work together. It's a continent-wide operation that's ongoing. There's always banding. There's 35, 40 million birds banded, have been banded.
Kidding.
Yeah, about 1 million each year.
40
get
million.
banded. Yeah.
1 million each year. You guys are busy.
Well, not us, but yeah. The recapture rate, the ones that we catch later on with the band on it, that's pretty low. I mean, there's a lot of work that goes into it, but we only catch a few of them back, you know.
Yeah, right. Yeah,
but that's the whole key, to get the ones back that have already been banded. Yeah.
Yeah, the more I spoke to Andrew, the more I realized how much bird banders love their job. In the Cyril Coldwell Laboratory, he told me more about his passion for banding.
Banding for me is really rewarding. It is to any birder. I would recommend you know, a weekend of bird banding to any serious bird or anyone just interested in birds or nature in general. Because to me, this is what biology is all about. I mean, you can look at laboratory specimens all you want, you know, until you're blue in the face and you can memorize them all. But until you hold the live bird in your hand, you never fully appreciate anything about the bird. You can be a really experienced birder, have been birding for 50 years or so, but you know, you could never ever have held a bird in your hand, and you'll never ever forget it once it's been in your hand and pecking at you like that guy. You'll be able to pick out these little tiny details like the pointed tail feathers, all the little stuff that you'll never see in a pair of binoculars. It just makes it so much easier when you're going out with a pair of binoculars looking for birds. He's about ready to go. I'm just gonna let him go here.
Autumn is by far the most difficult time to identify birds. Some of them are young, some of them are in a winter plumage, some of them are in between, and things like this winter plumage chipping sparrow here can be very confusing because they're quite featureless. It's the most difficult time, but it's also the most challenging time, and once you get into it, you'll find that it's actually quite a rewarding thing to do, identifying these autumn birds. All binoculars come with some sort of protection for the lenses. Those little caps that fit over each individual lens, they get lost pretty quickly. But a nice rain guard like this is a wonderful idea. Just slip it over the lenses when you're not looking through them, and that way you'll be protected from rain, or especially from your lunch if you eat lunch while you're bird watching. All you have to do is get pizza on your lenses once, and you'll realize that this is a very good thing to have. I just found this among the boulders here at the shoreline. It's a skull, and I'd say it's the skull of a great black-backed gull. Now, Peter Smith told me this was a big predatory gull, and now that I see just how big the bill is on this thing, I believe him. That's a very, very impressive head. Although I guess it was more impressive when the thing had the rest of its body.
Well, I'm pleased to report that from the time I landed in the Halifax airport to the time I left Bon Portage Island, I was able to find and identify to my satisfaction 40 species of birds. Of course, not including dead ones on the beach or ones in the mist net. Still, there are 160 species to go before I reach 200. I soon realized I wasn't the only visiting bird watcher on the island. In fact, during the evenings, members of the Nova Scotia Bird Society would sit around and argue about or discuss the day's bird sightings. And that put us in a good mood to go looking for more birds the next day. But the real reason we were there was because this was Thanksgiving weekend, a beautiful sunny weekend, lucky for us. I asked Peter Smith about the Thanksgiving tradition on Bon Portage.
There's a sparrow singing out there.
Yeah.
Isn't that amazing? Sparrows singing on Thanksgiving weekend?
That's right.
That's
Well,
wonderful.
they give Thanksgiving too, I guess, John, eh?
I really like
Yeah.
your Thanksgiving tradition here.
Yes.
The big dinner that you put on for
yes.
everyone who's helped out with the island over there.
Well, that started
over
in
the
1976 too, you know.
Oh, is that right?
Yes.
Is that right?
We had a lady student who thought we should start a dinner.
Mhm.
And there were 12 of us that year. As I say, we were living in tents then, working from tents. We had a campfire and a tarp over it, and we brought down a cooked turkey, and it poured rain and blew hard from the east. Yes, but we had all the vegetables, and the 12 of us huddled under the tarp and had a great time.
Oh, wonderful.
Yes, and that started the tradition going.
Right, right. So this is the 18th year for it now, I guess?
The 18th year, bar one. Yes, we missed 1 year.
Oh,
but,
that's, yeah.
But my gosh, now, and we invite the mainland people over, people who have been very supportive of our efforts here.
Yes, right.
And everybody mixes together well, and we have a great time.
Do you see many of your former students who've come through here?
Yes, look, a lot of people want to come back. Once bitten by the bug, I guess.
Yeah, well,
yes.
that's how I'm starting to feel here too.
Yeah, I hope you'll come back too. Yes.
Indeed.
Yes.
The thing that I find really interesting too is that even though you're running a very busy field station here, you still welcome people who are interested in the birds to visit and have a look at what's the best time to come, and what do people have to do to arrange to visit Bon Portage.
We really welcome people who are interested in birds or any aspect of natural history. It's one of the few islands where people can come and see things and enjoy and learn. If people were to write to me or to the biology department of Acadia University.
That's in Wolfville, Nova Scotia.
In Wolfville, Nova Scotia, and give us a wee bit of advance warning. I think it's just courtesy that they do so.
Oh, certainly. Yes, yeah.
And we can tell them about particularly sensitive areas at that time of year, and who the boatmen might be.
Right.
And we always like to hear too, in return, what they see. You know?
Oh, yes, of course, yeah.
You know, for the records here. So if people would like to write and give us advance warning, and we'll certainly try and accommodate them.
I can certainly recommend it myself. What I really recommend is a visit when the weather is good. During my last night on the island, the fog rolled in, and then the rain, and then it was time to go home. Well, we seem to be experiencing a change in the weather. This is not necessarily a bad thing, I'm told. The wind was coming from the south. Of course, the birds are trying to go south, so it's a good thing that the wind is about to shift and come from the north. It's a bad thing that it's raining, but hey, waterproof binoculars get you through just about anything. So I'm going to head off to another Nova Scotia bird hotspot, Briar Island, and see what happens there. Who knows? Could be thousands of migrating birds just waiting for us. In the meantime, you hear that call back there? It's one of the loudest birds known. It's the rare maritime fog hornbill. Nests in lighthouses and only calls during periods of very crummy weather. If you don't believe me, you'll have to come here and check it out for yourself. In the meantime, happy bird watching. See you later.